Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Strength and Hormones podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Papanos, and I'm so excited for today's interview. I'm joined by Danielle from Clearstem Skincare, and we're going to be talking all things mistakes and just different lies really that you've been told maybe about acne and anti-aging and what the truth is on these different topics. So Danielle, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here with you, and it's such a full circle moment. We heard about each other 10 years ago, and now we're finally meeting. That's really cool.
I know. I was telling Danielle that 10 years ago or so, I was dealing with acne and I was so frustrated, had tried everything. And I actually stumbled upon her practice because I was home for the summer and her practice was based out of San Diego. And I ended up not ended up going to see her, but I had found her and your work was so incredible. I remember looking at all of your before and after pictures of different patients that you had worked with. And I was just so amazed.
Thank you. I'm very lucky to have found this career path and for it to be so dang rewarding all the time. I can't think of a better career. And I know a lot of people go their whole lives without quite ever finding that one thing that's their passion and that pays them and that makes an impact.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful every day to be able to get to do what I do.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little intro of yourself and then how Clearstem came to be.
Sure. So I struggled with acne I still do. I'm extremely acne prone, even though I'm about to turn 40 and I've done Accutane 3 times. I'm still very acne prone. But back this up to when I was in college, I was studying biology, genetics, and immunology, fully wanted to go into a medical profession. I come from a family of scientists and I'm just fascinated with the human body. But at that time, my acne was raging. It got so bad when I went to college. So I would go to my doctor appointments as a, biology student with a list of very valid, but in hindsight, very simple questions. And they weren't things like, when I eat this or when I eat pizza, my skin reacts. What could that be? Basic questions like that, right? And I would leave these appointments with no answers, but more and more prescriptions and higher dosages of things. And I was like, that's what made me not go into medical school. But fast forward 10 years later, I'm still struggling with acne, even despite all the prescriptions. Had to do Accutane 3 separate times, spent years on spironolactone, years on antibiotics. I'm 29. The third round of Accutane has completely failed, and I'm getting all the side effects. My vision is even getting impaired. And the acne came right back within 3 months, if not sooner. So I'm like, screw this, I'll figure it out myself. I enrolled in esthetician school at night. And because that's the only way you could get access to information. So I enrolled in esthetician school at night, found out that treating acne was that medical profession I'd always dreamed of, but didn't know existed at the time. And it was the biggest full circle moment for me. So I shadowed under a ton of people in San Diego who are more well-established, learned a ton about skin, learned about tons of different procedures, and then finally started San Diego Acne Clinic. And had that for the last decade, and all we do is treat acne, and we've got about a 98% success rate. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing I get to do to help people in that regard. And met my co-founder as a patient. Her name is Kaylee Christina. She's actually a published nutritionist, extremely smart, and even her skin was freaking out, even with her nutritionist background. And it's because she didn't have education on pore clogging ingredients and the vitamins that can break you out. So I cleared her skin and got rid of all the scars within 2.5 months, which was really hard to do, considering how aggressive her acne was, right? But once that happened, she was like, the world needs this. We need to get this education to people. We need to get these products to people. And we slowly but surely started Clearstem. And now it is just completely grown into something we could never have imagined.
It's such a profound story. And I love that you are a science nerd as well, like myself.
Definitely.
I can definitely relate to that. And I think also with Kaylee's story too, that so many people believe they're doing so many things right with their acne. They're like, I'm not eating gluten. I'm not eating dairy. I maybe am not using a lot of pore cloggers.
They're using clean skincare.
Yes,
Air quotes
exactly.
here for clean, right? Because they think that means acne safe.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to talk about that because that is a big misconception, right? If you just go on to EWG or something and put your products in, a lot of them have pore clogging ingredients.
Yeah, they don't scan for that. They scan for toxins, which is super important. But for acne, pore cloggers is the number one thing that people don't get the education on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's really not a ton out there. And I know you guys have your pore clogging database, which I always turn people to. I'm like, go to EWG and then cross-reference it on Clearstem so that you can make sure it's clear in both these areas. But that really does dwindle down your list of options.
Big time. I would say 95% of skincare, this is after a decade of reviewing every single item for people, 95% of skincare has some sort of pore clogger in it. It's wild. It's very hard to avoid. And we're women, so we're using a sunscreen. We're using several different makeup products. We're using a blush. We're using, tinted moisturizer. Like, we have like all these products and all these different chances to get our pores clogged. So it's like, for women, it's hard.
Yeah. Well, and there's just so many things you try, I think, when you're dealing with acne because you're just so desperate. Like, I know when I was dealing with acne, I tried like drying my skin out to where it was just so incredibly dry. And then I tried overhydrating it. And then I tried like not washing with soap.
Yeah, it's always some extreme thing,
yeah, you try
right?
the extremes and then it just makes your skin worse. Your skin just totally revolts on you, right?
Yeah, well, you figured it out now. Your skin is absolutely perfect.
Thank you. But it's all about going back to the root cause, right?
Yes.
So I want to talk about that, absolutely. But let's first start just by talking about what are like the top three, if you had to dwindle down to three, I know there's so many, but top three skincare mistakes that you see people making that are experiencing acne.
Ooh, I love this. Okay, so number one, pore clogging ingredients. Assuming that your products don't have pore clogging ingredients. And this can come in a lot of different ways. People are like, no, I've been using this forever. It can't be this. That's an assumption. Companies reformulate all the time and they don't announce it, right? And something that might have been fine for you, like when you started it years ago, you might have been on birth control then. And the batteries might have been taken out of the smoke alarm, right? So things that were fine for you at a certain period does not mean that they're fine now. So that's a myth that, or a misconception that people need to stop doing. So checking pore cloggers, don't assume anything is safe. You plug the ingredient deck into the checker on our website. It'll tell you in red if there's a pore clogger. It's that simple. We made it that simple and we invested in building that out because it is that critical, right? So that's number one. Number two, the second biggest mistake, this applies to everyone. It's washing our faces in hot water. I don't know if you went through this phase too, where you were using like scalding hot water to quote, kill the bacteria. Did you do that?
Yeah. I still have to like control myself with it.
Totally. But it throws off our moisture. It throws off our sebum production. It makes our skin very dry, but then that sends the sebaceous glands into a mayday situation. They start overproducing oil. That oil is a little bit more dehydrated and stickier. Right. And then it also has weakened our barrier. So we're getting UV damage faster. It disrupts our microbiome on our skin, all that. Right. So it just completely throws our skin off in a way that's very hard to come back from because it's happening every day. So I always tell people cool water in the morning, just like splash off with cool water. And then at night when you're cleansing, just do lukewarm water. And don't sit there with the shower beating on your face. Hot water it'll also keep the scars from healing. So it's really important. The number three mistake is not exfoliating or not exfoliating properly for their skin.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, exfoliation is manual or chemical, so physical or chemical. I believe we need a combination of both, but the right texture, right? So some scrubs are the most common physical exfoliants. They can range, right? We've all used the St. Ives one where it has like jagged apricot pieces. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not something you want, right? But then there's like really aggressive scrubs that are even harsher and they create little micro tears in the skin. Those should be avoided at all times. Those are just not your friend. They create more inflammation than is productive to get that healing response that we're going for, right? But then there's some scrubs or some exfoliants where they're too light. They're not doing anything. They're like the Neutrogena one that has like the little blue beads in it. It's kind of more of a teenager product. It doesn't really do anything. They feel like boba. They're not doing anything, right? So you want that middle strength, more of a polish type of scrub. And to do that consistently, not just like one time a week for 2 minutes, but like maybe 10 seconds every other night or every third night, right? Depending on your skin. And then you follow it with a chemical exfoliant. My favorite is mandelic acid. It's like the Goldilocks of acid because it is stronger than salicylic, but it is not as irritating potentially as a glycolic. So, and it's also effective against fungal acne. So mandelic is your girl if you're an acne-prone woman trying to clear your pores. So after you do your scrub, you follow it with a mandelic acid product. Ours is called Clarity, and ours is also blended with turmeric, right? To just calm the inflammation. But you leave that on your skin and let it dissolve the clogs in your pore, and it takes about 15 minutes. Then you follow with your next step, whatever that is. It could just be your moisturizer, and you call it a night. But yeah, exfoliating properly and consistently with the right strength and the right tools is critical.
I love mandelic acid. I'm such a mandelic acid fan. It's probably because I had fungal acne.
Yeah, it's one of the only things that'll work for fungal.
Yeah, it like truly transformed my skin once I started using it consistently. And I actually don't know if it's pregnancy safe, so I haven't been using it the last few months. Do you know?
I believe that it is. So the only
Yeah.
so the whole pregnancy safe thing is very, very difficult, and everyone just doesn't touch it with a 10-foot pole for a good reason.
Sure.
No one's testing on pregnant women.
Yeah.
It's unethical for the woman to do it or for people to want to test on her.
Yeah.
Right. But then there are certain chemicals where we know if they get into your bloodstream, yes, they're going to be a problem. Right. Anything retinol or vitamin A. And we don't use those in our products. We do have it in our supplement, but not in our topical products. Right. And then salicylic acid. Currently, we don't have anything with salicylic acid, but that is one of the other common contraindications. Aside from that, we don't use anything that is contraindicated. That said, I always tell people, talk to your OBGYN. They might have specific concerns for you based on the knowledge that I hope they're keeping up with.
Yeah.
But as of, generally speaking, all of our skincare is totally pregnancy safe.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. I love that product. I use it, or I haven't in a couple months, but I was using it a couple times per week and I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's amazing.
Check with your doctor. If you're not sure, just send them a picture. I'd be like, hey, can I use this? Most of the time they're going to be like, yeah, you're totally fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about the fungal acne piece because I think that with with acne in general, it gets generalized a lot where people are like acne, right? But there's different types of acne and there's different triggers and root causes of acne. And so sometimes I see with patients when I'm working on healing the root cause with them, a lot of the common just like, SIBO type protocols and things that are healing just the bacterial overgrowth maybe aren't effective for what's actually going to clear their skin, or just addressing hormones isn't enough to be able to clear their acne.
Yes.
Right. And so sometimes it's hard to pick up on fungal overgrowth because it doesn't always show up when we do like a stool analysis and things. And so we have to go more based off symptoms or do like an organic acids test and things. But I've found
What's the organic acids test? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. It's a urine test that tests fungal metabolites. And for some people that don't, because candida is or any type of fungus, they like to hide in these what are called these biofilms. And so they don't always show up on testing until we start on herbs that actually probe the fungus.
Right.
And then if we retest a couple months later, then it shows up. But at that point, it's like we've already done all the testing. We started their treatment protocol. So if I suspect they have fungal acne based off of what they're telling me about their symptoms and, internal type issues that are going on, then I might do an organic acids test because then it's a higher propensity for us to be able to pick it up through urine. But what I found is that some people that is like the limiting factor to their skin getting better is that they've been treating it like it's bacterial and it's actually fungal in origin, both like topical and internal, right? So I just want to talk a little bit about fungal acne because I don't think that it's talked about enough. Can you just tell us a little bit about like what is fungal acne? Why are people getting it? What is the difference in that versus acne vulgaris?
Yes, definitely. So fungal acne looks very, very different from traditional acne. It looks like almost like white textured clogs on the skin, but that don't have a head. With normal acne, it looks like a little volcano, right? You know where the top is. You can kind of isolate it to like one pore, like one follicle. Fungal acne just looks different and it's not extractable. So you can squeeze at it, but nothing's even really going to come out. And it almost looks like a rash more than like pustules that you would expect. You know what I mean? It generally comes in humid environments or from contact with something that is keeping your skin wet and that might not be the most sanitary. Right? I see it wrestlers with their chin strap. Anyone that wears like a helmet that's touching their face a lot can definitely get that. Surfers get it on their skin, like on their body, especially if they're wetsuits. If they hang out in their wetsuits and they're really wet all the time. You can also get tinea versicolor, which is another like fungal issue of the skin that's from similar causes, right? But people that are acne prone, the fungus is basically just going to show up looking a little more acne-like. It's not as common as the other types of acne because it's not caused from products, and a lot of other acne is caused from products in some way. But fungal acne there's definitely internal causes too, and you got to work with a talented practitioner like you in order to pinpoint it. Western medicine, unfortunately, doesn't even know what fungal acne is. So, mandelic acid, though, that's why we loved mandelic acid. That's why we chose it. It's effective against all acne.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe something for someone to look at. How often would you say in practice you see fungal acne?
Not that much.
Yeah. Okay.
What you were describing actually sounds like fungal, especially because it's from your sweatband, right? Totally. Yes. I think that people diagnose themselves with it because they still haven't figured out what the heck is going on with their acne, that they're like, oh, it might be fungal. Maybe that's why it never freaking goes away or something. I honestly haven't seen it that much. I would say maybe 1 in 30 cases.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much less rare. Much more rare.
Yeah. I would say maybe 1 in 30. Or maybe it's a combination, right? Maybe fungus is at play. But it could be caused from other things. And maybe I'm noticing it from mainly those other things. And then it goes away. So I never went to go double check if it was fungal. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Confirmation bias aside, I would say there's only been a few cases where I looked at it and I was just like, whoa, yeah, that's totally fungal.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that makes sense. And what are the key differences and I guess similarities between treating other types of acne and then treating something like fungal acne?
You definitely still want to you want to regulate your blood sugar for sure. That's everybody, but it's really important if you have acne or any skin condition, really. Sugar definitely just keeps the level of inflammation in your body a lot higher, and it keeps your gut not optimized, right? It's just feeding all the bad stuff, whether it's candida, mold, bad bacteria, anything fungal going on in the system. Like everything bad feeds on sugar, right? Yeah. Would you agree with that statement? Yeah. I mean, yeah. So regulating blood sugar is really important. I talk to people about what they're eating, especially for breakfast, making sure it's protein and greens. And then making sure digestion is optimized. That's another one to help reduce inflammation. And then getting them on a really good exfoliating regimen that relies more heavily on the mandelic acid. I use a couple different lines in my practice, and we even have up to a 15% mandelic acid. So for extreme cases, I will bring out the big guns like that.
Sure. Okay. And so that would be for more fungal acne specific, you're saying?
Really aggressive fungal. Yeah.
Okay. And so then for the other types of acne, what would you say are some of the most important pieces of treatment? Do you think that blood sugar is still a really important component for all types of acne?
Yes, but it's more important for inflamed acne or cystic acne. What I do in my practice and what we have our skin quiz on the website do is filter out based on order of priority for the biggest triggers. Pore clogging ingredients, I can't stress that enough, right? You can be doing everything else right and have the perfect gut, but if you're still using pore cloggers, you're still going to have acne, right? So that's your first step. The second step is the vitamins that we're using that can spike testosterone, excess vitamin D, excess zinc, excess B12, stuff like that. I rule those out, and then I go to the diet. Once I've ruled all that out, that's when I determine what the cause is, that we're able to know what the main culprit is once we have eliminated all those things. That said, it is a little bit different for most people. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. No, it does. Totally. And there's obviously with acne, there's never just one thing you can pinpoint, right?
It's like the biggest cause and then the second one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Totally. And I even find too that with anyone, maybe they're like, oh, I know it's hormonal because it only happens during this point of my cycle, but there's always a gut component that's underlying, or there's always a nutritional component, like a deficiency or or it
could be that their pores were just clogged but chilling. But then when it's PMS time and testosterone's the one, making all the noise that week, that's when it turns into acne, but it was really a pore clogging ingredient in their makeup or something like that.
Totally.
Or it's like stress. It became the trigger because of a unique stressful situation, like they're studying for finals or something like that. But yeah, it's always some underlying trigger, and there's always an internal component.
Yeah. Absolutely. And do you think that the internal component is the one piece that most people are missing in their acne treatment? Or is there something else other than the pore clogging ingredients and the skincare products that they're using? Is there something else that you find that most people are missing out on in treating it?
Yeah, the internal side of acne, I would say most people are in the dark because most people don't have someone like you to work with. Yeah. They're relying on traditional Western medicine appointments where, they might get labs done once a year if they're remembering to ask, right? But those ranges are not even optimized for that person. They're just whatever America's normal is, and America's normal is not good, right? So most people, and then, if you ask a lot of questions about what's going on, if you even know what to ask in terms of what's going on in your body, you might not even get the solutions that you need in order to get that info. For example, most HMOs aren't going to offer a Dutch test.
Yeah.
and they're not going to do a stool test to like see if you have parasites like that. Those are specialty things that you have to go down, you have to get referrals for. So most people, because of our medical system, are in the dark about the internal stuff that's going on. And I would say almost everyone has some sort of gut dysbiosis or a digestive issue, like in their stomach not breaking down their food. I see that constantly. Most veteran estheticians will tell you everyone should be on digestive enzymes.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are the common ways that most people are getting treated for acne when they go to their dermatologist that aren't working for them?
Oh, God. The playbook is very straightforward and it rarely deviates. So they put you on some sort of topical, generally a Retin-A. And then if it's super inflamed, they'll probably put you on a topical antibiotic like topical clindamycin or something like that. So there's something topical in those two families, either harsh retinol or some sort of topical antibiotic. Then they put you on something internal generally like doxycycline or some other antibiotic. They might check back with you in like 3 months. Maybe things are better. Usually they're not. If you're a girl, they're constantly pushing you to be on birth control to, quote, balance your hormones. We know that drill. And then when those don't work, then you go on spironolactone. Feels like everyone's on spironolactone right now. If and when that doesn't work, then you're left with Accutane. And it's a big deal to put your body through that. The side effects are brutal.
Yeah. Well, and even with spironolactone, I think that people aren't told enough about it and how it can actually stop your menstrual cycle. Like I see a lot of spironolactone-induced amenorrhea.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't think women are educated enough about it because they know they don't want to go on birth control as the solution because they know that's not what they want to do.
Right.
But then the doctor that's prescribing the spironolactone doesn't tell them that spironolactone can throw off hormonal levels as well.
Yeah, I don't know if the docs actually know that. I really don't think that information is universal among doctors. It's just not. Yeah. I've met doctors with a very similar specialty, and they're all brilliant people with brilliant minds, but even they will not have all the same information, and even they might disagree on things where they might, focus on some side effects because they've actually seen it and known to ask for it. And then other people just haven't seen it and they don't even know to talk about it.
Yeah.
So it can be very scattered and inconsistent, the information that we get around things that were prescribed.
Why is the antibiotic route not working for people that have acne?
Because if it's from in my experience, so yes, underlying bacterial infection in the gut can absolutely lead to acne for sure. If you have like mysterious cystic back or chest acne, definitely look for like a bacterial cause, right? Most women, it's coming from their products, right? So the bacteria feeds on what's inside the pore. It's that extra keratin protein that we create. It's oil from, our natural oil, and then it's product residue, right? Some other oily substance from our product. It sticks and mixes with our extra keratin protein in our pore, and it creates a plug, and then our skin just keeps growing on top of it, and that's, then you have an inflamed follicle. That's when the bacteria have a feast, right? So, and that's when you see the pus and the inflammation, and that's what looks ugly, right? So that's when you go to the derm and they're like, okay, bacteria is here, let's just kill the bacteria. But the moment, if it works, great, you're lucky. A lot of time it just doesn't, and then you get yeast infection and your acne is no better. But if it does work, great. Then you stay on it for a little while, and then you realize you don't want to be on it forever. You stop, and you're still using the same product. So the acne comes right back within a couple weeks. So that's generally what happens with the antibiotic route.
And your gut's now in a worse position.
Your gut's now in a worse position. This is a total freak case, but I actually didn't know this was possible. I had a client come in a couple years ago, super cool girl. She had a doc keep her on antibiotics. He manually approved the refill every time. Had her on antibiotics for 5 years. Her gums turned blue.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't know that was even possible. She showed me, she flipped open her upper lip. Her gums had turned blue. It was the weirdest thing, but it's like a rare side effect from overuse of antibiotics.
Wow. And no one had told her about the harmful effects of antibiotics. So she was just going to stay on them forever.
She was young. And when you're on, and they were working for her acne, she did have more cystic acne. So I think it was helping her, or she thought it was helping. She still came to see me, so clearly it wasn't helping that much. But she was basically afraid to get off of it. And that's the thing. We're always afraid to get off birth control, afraid to stop spironolactone. We're afraid because acne sucks. And even just the thought of it getting a little bit worse is terrifying.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
we're dealing with scarring too, right? So it's like, it's the acne. And then it's like, what's it going to do to me after it leaves?
Yeah. Talk about post-birth control acne, because that's something I commonly see as well for people, right? Is like they had acne and maybe they're put on birth control for other reasons too, beyond just the acne, but then they come off acne and or come off birth control, and now their acne is worse than it's ever been.
Yeah, testosterone rebound. That can happen. Kaylee experienced this. That's actually what sent her skin spiraling, and that's how she wound up finding me, actually. Yeah, I mean, so the birth controls are all very different. There's the copper IUD, which for me, my personal choice was the way to go. I didn't want to do any of the hormonal kind. And the copper IUD I feel like is the lesser of all evils, right? And then there's the hormonal IUDs, and those are generally more progestin based. Those can create acne for a lot of people, and those take your period away. So it can be the right thing for someone who's not acne prone and doesn't want a period. Then there's the birth control pills. There's some variance between those options there, but most of the ones we get prescribed for acne are the higher estrogen ones, and they, more testosterone suppressing ones. So it is essentially taking the batteries out of your fire alarm. Yeah. So when you're, and it cuts off, communication between different organ systems and whatnot, but you don't think you're not worried about acne. You don't think you need to care anymore. So you're also not eating properly. Perhaps you're eating a lot of inflammatory foods because you can get away with it. You're using whatever on your skin because you can get away with it. And then the moment you stop, you get the testosterone rebound, and it's just like everything that was being prevented before is now back with a vengeance. So that's what a lot of women experience.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that the progestin IUDs, it sounds like progesterone, but it's not. It's progestin.
Synthetic progesterone.
Which actually molecularly looks more similar to testosterone than it does progesterone.
That makes so much
and that's
sense.
why it mimics the effects that testosterone has on your, what are they called? Sebaceous glands? Yeah.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then with the oral contraceptives, because they raise your estrogen so much, it's increasing sex hormone binding globulin to be able to keep estrogen levels regulated in the body. And then that's what you're saying is that when they then come off of birth control, their sex hormone binding globulin levels drop, and there's nothing to bind up all that excess testosterone.
Got it. Okay, I did not know that. That's wonderful to know.
Yeah. So I see that a lot, that not everyone has issues with the progestin IUDs, but there are some people that they really don't do well with it.
Yeah.
And so I almost treat them, if they're staying on the IUD, I almost treat them as if they have high testosterone levels.
Okay.
Because they respond very favorably because of how the progestin's mimicking the testosterone.
What would you, a client in that scenario, would you give them inositol, or what would you?
Yeah, inositol can be great, like a D-chiro and myo-inositol blend. Working on the gut bacteria too is also key, because your gut bacteria also produce testosterone and can cause like inflammation and things of that sort too. Improving blood sugar control for sure, just
back to that blood sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. I really love annatto too. It's so good for scarring. It's just a really potent source of vitamin E. It's about like 10 times more potent than your tocotrienol forms are that you normally get in most of your supplements. And I find that it works so well for helping with like the scarring piece that, as you mentioned, is kind of the second piece of healing your acne, right? It's like, okay, now you've reduced the breakouts, but now you're left with scarring that almost is just as frustrating as the acne breakouts are.
That is so true. Okay, yeah. And I didn't know that it was similar to vitamin E. That's really cool to know.
Yeah, it's like 10 times more potent. So like in terms of its antioxidant capacity. So it's pretty powerful in terms of how it's blocking the inflammatory process.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's one of my faves. So
it seems like that plus curcumin, and
you're
just like no inflammation left.
I know, right? I know. I'm a huge proponent of reducing inflammation, because I just think it's such a key component to so many hormonal problems.
It's the key component.
When
you reduce inflammation, everything gets better.
Yeah.
Your relationships get better, because your bandwidth isn't being drained, mentally, spiritually, physically, by things that are inflaming you, on any of those levels, right? I feel like once you drop, regulating your blood sugar and reducing inflammation and getting better sleep has a compound effect on every area of your life, not just your health, right? And then when you're feeling better, you show up differently in the world.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the big piece with acne, is that because it's, on your face, it impacts so much of the way that even your mood is every day, right?
Yeah.
And your personality. Like, it's one of the things that, unless you've had acne before, you really it's just one of the most difficult things to be able to deal with. Like, I experienced so much frustration when I was dealing with acne.
Yeah, it's pretty devastating, and you think that people across the street can even see it. It makes
you think everyone's staring at it.
Yeah. It's wild. It really is a total, I'm gonna cuss, mind fuck. And like it can be just like so psychologically devastating. And that's the part that we love the most at ClearStem, is relieving the suffering that comes from what it does to our minds too.
Yeah.
Like the skin, yeah, we'll heal that. But like the biggest impact I feel is helping people in their soul and in their mind when they get better from a condition like acne.
Yeah, I'm sure that's one of the most transformative processes that you see in individuals you work with. I want to talk a little bit about body acne and back acne and other places that acne can be found, and how some of these pore clogging ingredients could also be impacting these different body systems or parts of the body
Yeah.
that maybe individuals aren't thinking about.
Yeah, the biggest one for back and body is pore cloggers in your hair conditioner. For your upper back, almost all hair conditioners have some form of pore clogger in it. And even the expensive ones too. It doesn't matter. Like price has nothing to do with this. Most conditioners have shea butter, isopropyl palmitate, or coconut oil. I see that constantly. And if you have acne that is worse on one side of your face, generally your right side, or if it's going down your neck, that's from a hair product, probably conditioner or some other type of leave-in hair product. Shampoos can do it if you get scalp acne, but the back is generally from conditioner, not shampoo. There's that. And then, a body wash like Dr. Bronner's body wash is loaded with coconut oil. I have seen horrific body acne from that soap. If you don't break out, great. It's amazing. But if you do, stay away from it. Fabric softener, not that many people use fabric softener anymore, thankfully. But fabric softener can leave like a residue like on your pillows and on your clothes that can get into you while you sweat. But then, if it's cystic on the body, I would say for guys, whey protein breaks out their back like crazy. Eating a ton of eggs bothers the lymphatic system, and that can show up on the upper back kind of in like a V, like wherever the lymph fluid pools like at night. Yeah, it's either heavily internal or from something in your conditioner or body wash.
Yeah, because sometimes I've noticed too that people clear their face acne, but then they're still dealing with body acne. And do you think that in that type of situation, it's probably what they're using in their hair? Or
if it's on the upper back, yes.
Yeah.
If it's like cystic and it's kind of like all over and it just looks really big and red and angry, I would look inward. I would eliminate all dairy and whey protein and eggs, at least for the time being. It can also be a sign of like, that's where I would actually look at like internal infection, like overgrowth of something in the colon or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of times people, they go on their health journey, they start to remove more fragrance and harmful products that they know have endocrine disrupting chemicals, and they swap them over for these more natural options that oftentimes have things like coconut oil and shea butter. What are the common things that you see people making when they're cleaning out the endocrine disruptors, but maybe they're not aware of pore cloggers?
This happens a lot. Everyone thinks that clean means acne safe, because in our head, the word clean, it should mean acne safe, right? But it's just for toxins and endocrine disruptors. I see this a lot with like the, natural skincare that you would find at like a farmer's market, like so pure and small crafted and batches, small batches, and has all these lovely things that we would love for our food, but it does not translate to acne safe. We try to formulate as clean as possible. You'll never find a paraben or a phthalate in our products. I think that if you have acne, the number one thing to remove is pore cloggers. From there, just, I don't know, I would say just get rid of the products that have like a really long shelf life, because those will have all the parabens in them. I'm not a fan of Cetaphil. I don't think any esthetician actually is. It's loaded with parabens, and it actually has a pore clogger in it. I don't know. Just try to keep it as natural as possible, but I would still say prioritize no pore cloggers.
And what about people that are on the, I guess not necessarily other end of the spectrum, but individuals? There's kind of this big pull for women that I think are not doing endocrine disruptors, but are doing a lot of Botox and fillers and things. Can those be impacting acne?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
No. They can have other consequences. I'm not a huge I think it's personal choice.
Yeah.
If you're reducing your toxic load in, the 80 to 90% of your life that you can control, and your Botox makes you feel pretty, okay, do it. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's how I think. I think that, okay, I don't have a problem with filler. I've done filler before. You just have to have a good injector, because you don't want it to migrate. I don't think those impact acne at all.
Okay. You haven't seen that be a poor clogger
never.
trigger for people?
No.
Okay. And then what about anti-aging? Because I know that a lot of the acne products that are out there can cause your skin to age faster, right? And can, dry it out? Or what are these common acne products doing that are making people look almost older?
It happens a lot. So most acne products are very drying because it's trying to be antibacterial. Benzoyl peroxide is a perfect example. There are use cases for benzoyl peroxide. It's very helpful, especially for like teenage acne or like a really oily cystic acne. I like using benzoyl peroxide as a mask and then like stopping using it as soon as possible. That said, a lot of brands out there will just have you rely on benzoyl peroxide pretty much as your only corrective indefinitely. And that's when it will dry out your barrier. It can make you hyperpigment. If you have olive skin, like benzoyl peroxide can make you hyperpigment. If you get it near your eyes, it can irritate your eye area. I've seen it cause like eczema. Anything that's drying to the acne is going to be drying to your barrier. And it also can be really inflammatory to the scar next door that's trying to heal. So I'm just not a huge fan of using things like that, especially relying on them indefinitely, because that's when you really start getting like UV damage faster, and that's what ages you more. I know when I was relying on benzoyl peroxide, I was getting so many fine lines. Like my skin was so dry and it was so sensitive. And same thing with retinol too. Like I should say Retin-A. I've tried both kinds, different strengths, different times. It just makes you peel and it makes you burn more easily. If you have melasma, it can make it worse. Like a lot of these things it's like trying to kill flies with a blowtorch. Like you're trying to kill the bacteria, but you're destroying the skin around it, you know?
And so what would be the perfect balance if you know that you're acne prone and you also are trying to keep your skin looking youthful? What is the perfect balance? Is it focusing on like moisturization? Is there certain types of products that are more beneficial for that middle ground?
Yes, that's Clear's time. We found our way into the market because we don't want people to have to choose between acne products that dry them out and anti-aging products that break them out. And that's pretty much where most people find themselves. So you want to do, like, for example, mandelic acid. It's like that Goldilocks. It's strong enough to clear acne, but it's also an acid that is less irritating and actually stimulates collagen. So you're killing two birds with one stone, and you're, giving your skin multiple benefits at the same time with no like unwanted side effects, no like extra unwanted UV sensitivity like that you get with like a retinol, for example. Having a really good scrub that is not filled with drying agents. Like sometimes there's scrubs that have benzoyl peroxide in them too, and then your skin is just like annihilated afterwards. Having a scrub is great, but having it also be in a gentle hydrating formula, that's an example of that balance. And then a moisturizer that has collagen stimulation ingredients in it, like bakuchiol, but that, hydrates your skin at 3 different layers so that it's stimulating collagen while repairing your barrier so that you don't get unwanted UV sensitivity. So we really thought all of our products out to be extremely anti-aging, but also like help with acne. So you can look at it a couple different ways. Like it's anti-acne that helps me age better. It's also anti-aging that won't break me out.
And that's for really any age, you believe?
Yeah. I mean, most of our formulas have already been tested for sensitive skin, and even people with rosacea are able to use pretty much everything. The only thing we have that's really strong that some people with really sensitive skin would just need to be like careful with is the sulfur spot and mask. Like it's pretty powerful, and we don't want people relying on it when something's powerful, you tend to overuse it, right?
Sure.
And over rely on it. That one can be a little too strong for sensitive skin types, but everything that we make is suitable for sensitive skin.
Okay. And so walk us through what the perfect morning and evening skincare routine looks like for someone that is acne prone.
Acne prone. I'll do my routine, but then I'll show you how to modify it if you're dealing with like a ton of like current aggressive acne.
Okay.
So I'm more on a maintenance protocol, right? So in the morning, I think we should preserve our barrier and just splash off with cool water. I don't do a full cleanse in the morning anymore. I find that my oil is more balanced and my barrier is more protected if I just splash off with cool water. Because all you're really doing is taking off whatever sweat you accumulated from the night before and whatever lotion hasn't absorbed. So it's not that much, right? You're not taking off makeup, for example.
Sure.
So I just do that. And then we just launched our skin spray. It's like a hypochlorous,
I love it.
hypochlorous and magnesium and peptide concoction. That's fantastic. So I do that in the morning. That could also be like your toner step if you want to use a toner. And all toners are different, but generally they're, just like kind of light and aren't going to be like crazy strong one way or the other. So you could do a toner in the morning and then you do moisture and sun protection. Those are non-negotiables. So moisture is different for everyone. I am oily, so I don't put lotion on in the morning, but I do our hyaluronic serum. I do either Bounce Back or Cell Renew. So I just do a serum that has some adaptogens. And then I do the UR Sunshine, which is a zinc-based physical sunscreen. You always want zinc because it's anti-inflammatory as well. And it's safe enough to go under the eyes, which is really important for sunscreen because most aren't. So you would do that. So basically splash off, tone if you want to, some sort of hyaluronic serum with benefits, and then a zinc-based sunscreen. At night, you're taking off makeup and you're taking off 16 hours of like sweat and dust, right? So that's when you actually do want to cleanse really well. So lukewarm water, you would do gentle clean to get off your makeup. And then if you're scrubbing that night, you just do a little bit of vitamin scrub. And you can even do just your lower face or just your forehead. Whatever area needs more exfoliation, you can do that. And I only scrub for like 10 seconds at this point. So that's what I would do. And then you can do a toner step if you have one. And then you do Clarity, which is like the mandelic acid blend. So do that maybe 3 to 4 nights a week. Put that on your skin. Let it sit alone for about 15 minutes. The moment you put something else on, it neutralizes it. So let it sit alone for at least 15 minutes to unclog your pores. Then I follow with Bounce Back, which is our no Botox serum. It's got all the peptides in it. I love it. Botox just makes me feel weird. Whatever. So I use peptides for my wrinkles. So I do a ton of Bounce Back, and then I follow at night with our Hydro Glow moisturizer. If someone they just want the bare bones, like just want to make it okay, but you're not like working on anything particular, then you can just do vitamin scrub, Clarity, and moisturizer. Like you can just keep it that simple, but it'll still be extremely corrective. Now, if you have active breakouts and that's like pustules and you're oily and there's a lot of bacteria and like inflammation, that's when I would do that sulfur spot and mask that I told you about. You can do that. It's like a clay form, but it has a lot of actives in it. Put that all over any affected areas, let it dry for like 20, 30 minutes, and then rinse it off. And then you would follow with Clarity and then your next step. So you can layer that mask in for the extra like anti-acne, like firefighting essentially.
Okay. And let it sit there for some minutes.
Yeah. It's like a clay mask, right? So it goes on wet and then it dries, then it starts to, kind of like crack and like come off. That's when it's
so good.
Yeah, right. It physically draws out the stuff in your pores, but ours has glycolic in it. It has sulfur in it, has zinc in it. Like it does a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So if you have active acne and there's like a lot of whiteheads or a lot of pus, you definitely want that. But you wouldn't use that if you're just like anti-aging cruising.
Sure. Okay. And then that and Clarity, both of those.
Yes, because Clarity is really gentle, right? It's effective, but it's gentle, and that just keeps your pores clear, but it stimulates collagen.
Sure. Okay. So. Okay. Amazing. I love it. And how many times per week can someone do the sulfur spot treatment?
Depends on their skin type and depends on how long they do it. I would say they could do it three times a week is good for like a half hour. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. And then the Clarity for 15 minutes. And then once you've done that, then moisturize.
Yeah. And that's a lot of acne correction right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can do the ice rolling too. Ice rolling is good for everyone actually. Gets that lymphatic movement and just feels really good. It's de-stressing. It has all the benefits too. So yeah, ice packing, especially if you're really dealing with active breakouts or anything cystic. Ice rolling. That's just a great step that everyone can do as often as they want. Like you can ice roll 10 times a day without really hurting your skin.
Okay. What about if someone's doing red light therapy? Would it be safe to do after they've applied those treatments, or should they be doing that before?
Red light, I think, is best on bare skin. Nothing on it. Just let the light go in. You can do some sort of hyaluronic serum. You just don't want to do anything with oil. I just prefer to let the light go directly into my skin without impeding it because I just view that as a variable.
Sure.
Like if the machine was tested for going on bare skin, just do what it was tested for.
Yeah.
That's how you get the most consistent results, I feel.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Danielle, thank you so much. This was so informative. I really appreciate all of the guidance and wisdom that you've provided our listeners. Tell us where we can learn more about you and ClearStem.
Clearstem.com is our website. There we have our pore clogging ingredients checker. It's totally free. Bookmark it to your phone. It will save your life and your wallet because you just won't be going to Sephora blind anymore, right? So that clearstem.com is where you can find the checker, and our blog is very, very useful. So, and our skin quiz. So that's the website. For socials, I am at Danielle the Acne Guru. ClearStem Skincare is the handle on TikTok and Instagram, and then my partner, the nutritionist Kaylee. Hers is Kaylee.Christina.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.